Oh, that didn't work. So, all right, we want to welcome everybody this morning or this afternoon, wherever you may be, to another one of our live streams. We are so privileged today to have Yousef Alkhouri with us today. Yousef is a Christian Arab Palestinian theologian from Gaza. He serves as academic dean at Bethlehem Bible College, and he's a member of the steering committee of Christ at the Checkpoint and the board of Kairos Palestine. Yousef was born into a Greek Orthodox family with a long tradition of ecclesial service. Dr. Alkhouri earned a BA in Biblical Studies from Bethlehem Bible College, an MDiv from Alliance Theological Seminary in New York, and a PhD in Contextual Biblical Interpretations and Theologies from Vrije University in Amsterdam. His research and publications in both Arabic and English focus on Palestinian theology, contextual biblical interpretations, and the witness of Christianity in the Palestinian experience. Yousef, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Rob. It's a privilege to join you.
All right. Let's just begin. How are you doing? How's your family? How are the people of Gaza? You were born in Gaza. You went to the church there in Gaza. You just told me that your grandfather was a priest at the church there in Gaza. How are things going in Gaza?
Yes, actually, my last name is translated into English as the priest. So my name translated as Joseph the priest, and this comes from my family long history of service in the Orthodox tradition in the Church of Gaza for almost 900 years and approximately 36 plus generations of my great-grandfathers were priests in the Orthodox Church.
Wow.
And yes, and in Gaza in particular. So we have this long history. And my family have survived several empires and occupations over the centuries, including the current Israeli settler colonialism of Palestine and the genocide has been going on Gaza. I'm doing okay. It's been, of course, a traumatic season or traumatic 2 years for us here in Palestine, but also with those who are of Palestinian descent all around the world. But it's cannot be measured even or compared to the experience of the people in Gaza,
right.
The entire population in Gaza, but focusing particularly on the Christian community who has almost lost everything. The majority of Palestinian Christians lost their homes, lost their livelihood, and of course, a significant percentage for us as Palestinians were lost their lives in this genocide or during this genocide.
So sorry. You shared with me before. I'm going to see if I can share my screen really quickly here for the church in Gaza that your family was members of. This is their Facebook page, St. Porphyrius. Is that how you say it correctly?
St. Porphyrius Orthodox Church, yes.
There you go. All right, there you go.
And this is a memory, yes. If you remember, 2 years ago, we just commemorated 2 years of the Israeli bombardment of the church vicinity that resulted in the killing of 18 Christians, or members of the church, people that I knew personally. Some of them are extended family members.
Okay.
But my family continues to serve this church. In fact, my sister has been leading the Sunday school ministry and children program, educational program at the church, which shelters the majority of the Christian community around, at least during the first days of the genocide, early days of the genocide. And she continues to lead the program. You can, in fact, see her pictures.
Oh, okay. I'll go back to that.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Let me see here. Show the screen again. There we go. Go ahead and tell me where to go. Are these her pictures or?
Actually, if you go, these are different groups. I think we need to go to the church Facebook page.
Okay.
Which is St. Porphyrius Church. They have their own Facebook page.
All right. I'll have to look that one up really quick if I can.
Yes.
All right. Let's see if I can get it. So St. Porphyrius. I thought I did that. Church in Gaza. I did that search. All right. That's what I searched on, and that's what came up. Oh, there you go. I see it. See all. No, follow. Recommended pages. I apologize. I'm not finding it.
Oh,
So,
I
okay,
can understand. It can
uh,
be really hard. You know,
okay.
especially
So,
now with the control over social media from
right,
different
yeah.
parties.
So your family stayed in the church for almost the entire 2 years up in the north part of Gaza, which was obviously besieged,
Yes.
and that's the threat right now. Is that that's still going to become occupied territory? I mean, annexed territory, right? I mean, the fear is that Israel's going to want to just annex the northern part where the church is. Is that correct?
It's not clear. No one can
Okay.
understand what goes in mind of the Israelis and the
Right.
Americans, by the way,
Yeah.
in terms of uh, their plan for Gaza.
Okay.
Currently, the church is beyond the yellow line that was
Okay.
drawn according to the plan,
All right.
a so-called peace plan
All right.
between the Israelis and Hamas and the US and other Arab countries. But of course, the church remains in the north of Gaza, the Gaza Strip. It's in Gaza City.
Yeah.
It's within the most dangerous, I would say, zones in Gaza. There is nearly for almost 2 years of the genocide, no access to clean water, no access to food, medicine, medical care. We have lost several people in the Christian community because we couldn't get them medicine on time. My parents actually, uh, they are short on their medicine,
Mm.
and the people lost their lives because they couldn't go to hospitals. Most of the hospitals have been destroyed. The only hospital that remains operating now, partially, is the Ahli Hospital, which is Episcopalian uh, hospital in Gaza City that has been serving since the 19th century. But also, it operates at minimum.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So, what's the current situation there now? When we have this ceasefire, which I'm not sure how you feel about that. Maybe we'll talk about that here in a little bit. I'm extremely skeptical myself, obviously. That what's the current situation for them? Are they getting food? Are they getting supplies now in the last couple of days? Is that improved?
It has improved a little.
Okay.
However, it remains very minimum.
Okay.
Actually, Israel was supposed to allow around 600 trucks a day.
Right.
But since the beginning of this ceasefire, Israel has not yet allowed more than almost 300 trucks a day. And the majority of the supplies go to the south of Gaza,
Right.
not to the north of the Gaza Strip, where the church and the Christian community and many people remain. Even the people who returned to the north of Gaza after they were displaced during this genocide, when they returned home, they couldn't find their homes. They couldn't find a way to survive in the north. There is, like, literally, Israel destroyed any potential for creating life in the north of Gaza. So they had to return south.
Okay.
So most of the goods are in the south, and what comes to the north, Gaza Strip, is very little. There is no protein. Uh, I mean, meat,
Right.
chicken, even fish. There is no medicine. Still, medicine didn't get into Gaza. There are many items remain on the prohibited list according to the Israelis. They are not allowed to get into Gaza.
It almost makes me wonder, how are they surviving at all in this? Is it divine grace? I mean, obviously that's there, but I mean, I gotta have. When was the last time you saw your family?
My last time I saw my family, maybe 40 years ago.
Okay, so
Yes,
obviously you've spoken with them, of course, on a regular basis, but okay,
yes,
and it's got to be
yes.
heartbreaking. I'm so sorry. I can
It
only
is,
imagine. Yeah,
and it's only divine grace. This
yeah,
is literally, I think, the secret and the miracle of them remaining alive and surviving
oh
this
my
ongoing
God.
genocide. Um, and keep in mind, at a time for them, they had to eat animal feed to survive. Um, I remember weeks during this genocide where the Christian community, and I'm aware that the entire Palestinian community and people in Gaza had suffered the same
Hmm.
as the Christian community. They didn't find wheat and flour.
Okay.
They didn't find any kind of food to sustain themselves. So at some point, they had to bake animal feed as bread and eat it.
All right.
This how dehumanizing it was. It
Yeah.
was food that is a basic human right that was denied to them.
Right. Right. Now, the West Bank has not gotten much attention at all the last couple of years because everything that's going on in Gaza, and that's almost given them, Israeli, the IDF, at least a free license to do whatever they desire to do in the West Bank because it's with impunity. There's no consequences because no one's even giving attention. And the United States might know, but they don't seem to care. So how are things going in the West Bank, and what's happening there, where you are?
Where I am and beyond, I think since the beginning of this genocide, the West Bank has become even more and more like a concentration camp.
Okay.
Let us be very clear. And more recently, each town has become like its own separate concentration camp.
Okay.
Bethlehem, for example, is surrounded by at least, I would say, 90 checkpoint, road blockade, and gates. At some
That's
point,
every road. I
literally,
mean, that's every single road, every road in and out. Yeah. Okay.
exactly, this is my point. Almost every road in and out, even between small towns and villages within the governorate of Bethlehem.
Right.
I have friends, family, colleagues uh, who live in Bethlehem, who live in the same town. However, in between neighborhoods, the Israelis installed gates, and these gates, when they are closed, no one is allowed to commute. And sometimes this happens not only for a couple of hours, but happens for entire weekends or
Hmm.
several days. And even there is a systematic way of humiliating the Palestinians. For example, in Bethlehem, there is a school, an evangelical school, by the way, where the Israeli military decided to install a gate. So families cannot go pick up their children from their school because the Israeli military sometimes decide to close the gates on the time where families are supposed to pick up their children.
So how do the kids get home?
Sometimes it's really dangerous that families have to take routes through the mountains, you know, destroying their cars, sometimes uh, using um, routes that are not equipped for humans in order to take their families and their children from school,
Right.
or to wait 8 hours or 10 hours until the Israeli military decides to open the gates.
One of the things that I've been trying to say even more lately, I'm not sure why I didn't say it enough before, was that people just need to understand that what's happening, with the conflict with Hamas or whatever, it's a resistance movement. They're resisting this. And when I hear stories like what you're telling me, it's amazing to me that the Palestinian people are not more violent at all. I mean, they have been so incredibly persevering and faithful and nonviolent for 75 years or longer of this kind of oppression. And when you weigh this kind of oppression down, you're just asking for something to explode, And I remember, Yousef, you probably don't realize this, but in the first days after October 7th, 2023, there was a conference call, and you were on it. And we hadn't actually met yet, but
Mhm.
I remember very distinctly you were on it. And someone asked you then, they said, what about Hamas? What about Hamas? What about Hamas? And you said very candidly and very pointedly, you said, you give us justice and we will take care of Hamas. And so when you continue to give this kind of oppression, how do the Palestinian people not become violent as a response? How do you guys
And
do
for
it?
and I think for so long Palestinians tried different methods of resistance.
Right.
Um, and for example, the Christian community in its majority tried to use nonviolent resistance, and we still committed to the ways of Jesus of non-violent resistance to the empire. And there are people who believe in violent resistance as the way for justice.
Right.
And what keeps us in this act of resilience, sumud in Arabic, is our faith in a God of a God of justice. This is what we see in the Bible. This is what we believe about God, that God will redeem us. God will, His truth will prevail, and the empires shall be gone, and His kingdom will come. This is our faith, right?
Yeah.
And secondly, people here understand how they are rooted in the soil of Palestine and how God has planted them in this land in order to nurture the people and to be the salt and light for the people in this land. Palestine is a land on a crossroad. So it's fascinating that God places Palestine in a geopolitical location of a crossroad between empire.
Yeah.
Not just to be a land conquered by the empire, but I think also to be a light to the empires. This bridge between continents and nations, to be a place of reconciliation, where people can encounter the living God and be reconciled with each other, but also with God.
Well, your faithfulness, your testimony of you and of the people of Palestine and perseverance is a tremendous witness for the gospel of Jesus Christ. I live in a land where the witness of Jesus Christ is not going too well these days in American churches. And we just look at you, and of course we are praying and we are weeping with you. But we admire your faithfulness, your courage, your testimony. You are the example of taking up your cross and following Jesus. And I always say that I want to aspire to the same type of nonviolent response, and I believe in a nonviolent God. All who live by the sword will die by the sword. I believe in that. But if I were picking up rubble of a home where my child was buried, I don't know what I would do. How would I respond? And you and your people have responded so unbelievably faithfully to Christ. You're going to be a lot closer to the throne of God than I will ever be. And I just I met him one time, But tell us more about what conditions are like in Bethlehem, and obviously the roadblocks and those things are. The economic oppression's got to be tremendous. How are you guys getting by, even in the West Bank?
Yes, especially the economic situation of the West Bank is disastrous. Bethlehem relies on tourism.
Yeah.
For more than, I think, 70% of our economy relies on tourism. And since COVID, the economy of Bethlehem has been trembling. And after October 7th, and I don't want to make October 7th the focal point, but it became the justification for intensifying the Israeli oppression on Palestinians. But economically, the situation in Bethlehem has been really dire. And if I want to zoom into the Christian community to give a picture just a little bit, the Christian community in Bethlehem has lost at least 150 families who were forced to immigrate due to the current reality. And here I want to highlight something really important, because for so long, especially during the past 2 years, whenever the Christian Palestinian community in Bethlehem is highlighted in US media or in some Christian circles, the blame is put on the PA, the Palestinian Authority, or on radical Muslims, that the number of Christians dwindled. That's a false narrative. This is a propaganda and an Israeli haspara. The fact that most of the Christian Palestinians are leaving forced because of the economic restrictions by the Israelis, and of course because of the lack of security. Many of the Christian families who own land and it's season to harvest olives, they cannot reach their land because the Israeli settlers attack them. The Israeli military protect the settlers, and most of the time the Israeli settlers and the military steal the harvest of those people. So the Christian community in Bethlehem and beyond Bethlehem is experiencing what I would call, even for Gaza, ecclesiocide, the destruction of the body of Christ
Of the
in
church,
Gaza.
yeah.
Yes, I'm afraid that this is happening in the West Bank, but in uh, a lower intensity, but it's a systematic agenda that the Israeli occupation implementing here. That's why Christians are leaving
Right.
Bethlehem. As I'm the academic dean of Bethlehem Bible College, and part of our ministry is the Shepherd Society.
Mm-hmm.
So the Shepherd Society 2 years ago prayerfully is considering in what ways we can sustain and help the Christian community remain in Bethlehem. And we started job creation ministry just to help families survive. And
Yeah.
many families, they found in this ministry some hope
Mm.
in order to bring bread home and also stay in their hometowns and in their home countries. So this is a glimpse of the reality in Bethlehem. But I'm not sure, let me give even more about Gaza, because Bethlehem and Gaza are not two separate. And this has been the issue.
Okay.
And so many media
Please.
outlets trying always to detach the Palestinian realities in the West Bank and Gaza from each other. And the Palestinian experience in Gaza is also linked. Christians, we have lost almost 50% of the Christian population in Gaza due to the genocide. Israel destroyed their house, their schools. Many of the Christian schools in Gaza were either totally destroyed or seriously damaged.
Mm.
Their livelihood, their businesses, and more than 5% of the Christian population in Gaza has been killed. By the way, not by Hamas and Islamists, not by the PA, but by the Israeli military.
Okay.
Not mistakenly, but in many incidents it was intentional.
Yeah, yeah. And I know you know that very well, by the way, and I know those listening may not understand, but it was very intentional. They knew exactly where the Christians were, and they still bombed anyways.
Yes, and
Yeah.
Israeli snipers targeting, for example, two elderly women who were actually walking next to the church building within the church vicinity,
Okay.
walking next to the sanctuary. The sniper killed the older woman, and when her daughter, who's young, her older daughter was trying to rescue her mom, the Israeli sniper killed her. Another example, and people can look it up, is Ilham Farah. Ilham Farah was a music teacher. Many people in Gaza knew her very well because she was one of the few music teachers and a pianist in Gaza. She served as the pianist of the Baptist Church in Gaza for decades. During one of the I would say quiet days of the genocide, like quieter days of the genocide,
Mm-hmm.
she left the church trying to make sure that her house is still standing.
Okay.
She was around 80 plus years old. So this older woman walking in the street by herself,
Mm-hmm.
the Israeli sniper shot her in her foot and let her bleed to death for 12 hours. And in the early morning, an Israeli tank crushed her body before allowing an ambulance to get to her. I don't believe that this was done by mistake.
No. Yeah.
So this is clear.
Yeah. We have too
And
many
intentional.
evidences of Israeli snipers who are just pinpoint marksmen hitting right on the forehead, right in the heart. The children, one child was shot in the forehead and in the heart with just perfect precision. It's just these are targeted killings.
And of course, the
Unbelievable.
story of Hind Rajab,
Yeah.
young
The young girl.
was like more than 300 bullets.
Yeah. While she was on the phone with the Red Crescent, and just unbelievable. Now my concern is that the present peace deal, whatever you want to call that, is not going to provide any lasting peace or whatever. What are your thoughts about this and why?
Yes, this is an excellent example, and I think you are the right person to talk to about this, because the Roman Empire promised peace in the first
Right.
century, and always the Roman Empire peace came with genocidal actions
Yeah. Yeah.
and came at the expense of indigenous people, the poor, and the marginalized in the
Yep.
communities, not peace built on justice.
Right.
And I think this peace plan is an excellent example of a Roman or Pax Romana, peace of
That's a
Rome,
good way of putting it. That's a very good way
right?
of putting it. Empire.
Uh, it's imperial, and I
Yeah.
think it was very clear the way it was celebrated, the way it was proposed,
Yeah.
and even the 21 points that have no mention in whatsoever of the right of Palestinians for self-determination,
Yeah.
right? The rights of Palestinians to rebuild Gaza, always someone else has to do the work and benefit,
Right.
of course, and make the profit. It's a lucrative industry, after
Exactly.
all, for some
Yeah.
people.
Exactly.
And this plan, there is no security for the Gazans. Actually, the only side that has the full impunity gets all the benefits are the Israelis, and we get to see that this plan guarantees the release of all Israeli hostages,
Right.
but ignores totally the almost 12,000 Palestinian hostages in Israeli prison system. And
Right.
the last one of them was the Christian from the Anglican Church in Ramallah, Layan Nasser, who's only, I think, 22 years old. The Israelis detained, and she's now in Israeli prison. She's a hostage. There is no clear, even criminal record for her to
Right.
be detained, so on and so forth. And so many hundreds and thousands of Palestinians who are detained and taken hostages by the Israeli military without accusations, without due
Right.
process.
Right.
And beside the children who are under 18 years of age, who are in the Israeli prisons, they are hostages as well. More than 500 children, more than 400 women who are taken hostages by the Israelis. So the plan doesn't talk at all about these people, these victims of the Israeli brutality. And of course, there is no reparation for the Palestinians.
Right. Right.
And even our right to have a word of our government that should be governing us.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the basics of democracy. I thought so, at least. We are denied that right as indigenous people.
Yeah.
I think this plan is, in fact, again, it's a Pax Romana. It
Yeah.
just paves the
Okay.
way for a total erasure of the Palestinian rights in their hometowns and the advancement of a settler colonial project in Palestine and in particular in Gaza.
And they talk about the prisoner exchange. One of the things that's important to know, the number that you gave, 12,000 prisoners, when Hamas escaped, did what they did on October 7th, and it's condemnatory because obviously it's an act of terrorism against civilians and things of that nature, and we've condemned it many times. One of the things that they said was, well, we're doing this because of Israeli actions in the West Bank and because of the people that are being illegally detained. And I believe the number of detainees at the time was 5,000. In other words, they took hostages so that we can get our hostages back. And there are now double the number of hostages in Israeli prisons of Palestinians. And even if we do a prisoner exchange today, right, who's to say Israel's going to detain somebody else tomorrow, right? I mean, this is the reality that people are being detained in the West Bank and every single day for no reason at all. Children and others, young women, human rights activists, people that are no threat to Israel. And this continues. And this is just creating the grounds for further conflict. And then, of course, you brought up the point that there's no Palestinian sovereignty. I mean, how... I don't know how Americans don't see when Jared Kushner is negotiating the deal. I mean, he makes his living off of real estate deals. This is a real estate deal, and you stated it very well with the Pax Romana. It's amazing to me how much people celebrate the Pax Romana historically, the Pax Romana, the peace of Rome, was built on the back of murder, of death, of slaves, of rape, of torture. That's why no one was going to rebel against Rome. They established peace from violence, and so that's a pretty
In
appropriate.
addition to one more thing, I think
Please.
we need to add here, which is the imperial cult of Pax Romana, which is the theology that was the software of Pax Romana. And sadly speaking, we see that the theology, the imperial cult that has been feeding this Pax Romana in our region is actually Christian Zionism.
Yeah.
Which is dangerous. We have a theology that I'm having trouble to call it a theology, because there is, as I said, there is no theo, there is no God, the God of the Bible, and such an understanding that this theology feeds on war, feeds on terror. And that's actually, at some point, I call Christian Zionism as a theology of terror, which is a software, which is the ideology that feeds into this idea. Don't forget that majority of who are on board in this Pax Romana are Christian leaders, Christian Zionist leaders in the government, of the U.S.
Yeah, and it's not just those that are Christian Zionists that support the ongoing conflict. It goes way beyond that, Yousef. I'm sure you know, here in the United States, in terms of idealizing the American empire, and America can do no wrong, or at least my party can do no wrong type of mentality. And I do a lot of work, obviously, in the Book of Revelation. I'm doing a series on Revelation Revealed on my YouTube channel, just saying this is what Revelation is talking about. This is what the beast and the empire is talking about, and it's waging war against God's people, and it's bringing terror and catastrophe around the world, and justifying it in the name of empire. And here we are in bed with the beast. And so that's very much been the voice that I've been trying to have. And it's amazing how much pushback I get. It's like, can we not see what's happening? So, and again, I'm just so sorry. I'm just so sorry for what you've experienced, what your family's experienced. And I mean, what can we do? I don't want to keep you too much longer here. What kind of things what would you have to say to us, to the American church, to myself and others? What can we do to help this end and get a just lasting peace?
There's so much to do. First of all, I think it's important to pause and reflect.
Okay.
To pause and reflect. I think we have been so consumed with all the misinformation, disinformation, and even the correct information, to the point that we are burdened with that. And I think it's these kind of strategies are created by the empire, because they are throwing all this on you to the point where you don't understand what's true and what's not.
Right.
And you start questioning and even being skeptical about the truth.
Right.
And especially to the church in the U.S., there is an urgency to pause.
Okay.
To pause and reflect. Second, I think the church needs to educate itself.
Yeah.
Educate itself to the way of Jesus, and later to the history and politics of Palestine. The ways of Jesus, because for the past 2 years, what I have seen from the churches in the U.S. and many Christians, and I don't want to overgeneralize, but many, I think there is a need for repentance and returning to the way of Jesus. The way of Jesus is not the way of the government or the nation, or Zionism or Israel. And I think that people have conflated Jesus and make him wear red and blue and white hats. And I think this is dangerous. I think we need to go back to Jesus. Amen. And see what Jesus teaches us. I think for so long also the church have forgotten Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, the most beautiful teaching of Jesus that attracts atheists, Muslims, people from different religions and backgrounds to Jesus, is his Sermon on the Mount, and it's the most ignored teaching of Jesus in the Western Hemisphere. We need to go back to Jesus. And we need then, after Jesus, to see other people through the eyes and the lens of Jesus.
Yeah.
If Jesus
Yes,
says
absolutely.
that we have to love our neighbors and to love our enemies,
Yeah.
so do you think that we as Palestinians, are you loving us in the way of Jesus? This is my
Right.
question to you. Are you loving even the enemies who you consider enemies of the Palestinians, Muslims, Arabs, whatsoever? Do you love us in the way that Jesus asked you to do? Because if you don't, I think you don't love Jesus. You don't love God.
I
This
agree.
is a very clear doctrine and teaching in the church.
Whatever you did to the least of these brothers of mine, you did to me.
Yes, and in First John, he says like very clearly, if you can't love your neighbor, you cannot claim that you can love your God. That's very
Yeah.
clear teaching.
Yeah. Yeah. 1 John 3.
Um,
Yeah.
yes, and I think John said like, then you are a liar if you do that. You look
That's what it says. 1 John 3. Yeah.
So I think this is really important.
Yeah.
Third, we need to have the prophetic courage of speaking truth to
Yeah.
power,
Amen.
even when the truth is inconvenient, when truth is costly. Um, the disciples had to bear this weight when they proclaimed the good news of Jesus. The empire didn't like this good news.
Right.
The disciples had to carry the weight. They were executed. They were imprisoned for speaking truth to power. When Augustus Caesar was proclaiming that his presence and his dominance is the good news, the disciples went on to preach the good news of Jesus, that Jesus
That's
is
right.
king.
Yeah.
And when we say that Jesus is king, there is no other king.
Yeah.
And for this, I think people need to have this courage of saying to killing the children is sin. That shouldn't be a point of controversy. A Palestinian or American, Jewish or Christian or Muslim or Buddhist, killing a child is wrong. Killing
Yeah.
innocent people is wrong.
Yeah.
We cannot justify it in whatsoever.
All right.
Lastly, this is more for people who argue and try to justify sometimes violence and war with just war theories and whatsoever. My invitation is to go back to Jesus. So let us be Jesus-centered again. Just war, you
Amen.
cannot justify war. War cannot be just.
I agree.
The only just thing is to love your neighbor as yourself,
Right.
and to judge the reality according to the experience also of your neighbors.
Right.
So this is my comment to the church. And of course, lastly, I would say, come and meet us, come and see us.
Amen.
In Bethlehem. I have friends who come to Bethlehem for the first time and get to meet Palestinian Christians, and they think like, wow, we didn't know that you existed.
Right.
We didn't know that Bethlehem is safer than in New York City.
Yeah.
We didn't know that actually I can walk at night in Bethlehem and people would host me for coffee, for tea, for even dinner without asking me a question. We didn't know that Palestinian people are hospitable or loving, warm. We are not terrorists.
No.
We are God-loving, people-loving people.
And the Muslim community in Bethlehem is saying they're just unbelievable people. I've had the privilege of staying there for a week or more and different time, being there many, many times. Yousef, I hope to see you again soon. Thank you so much for your time, and you are in our prayers. And if you need anything, please let us know how we can help. And again, subscribe to the Determined Truth YouTube page. We have an interview with Jonathan Kutab this evening at 8:00 p.m. Eastern time. So join us again as we have Jonathan back on to talk some more. Thank you so much, Yousef, and our prayers are with you and your family.
Thank you. God bless you.
All right.